Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Explore More webinar series with 10 Adventures. We're welcoming our audience members as we're excited to begin a really special webinar today that I know I'm excited to learn more about. Today, we're going to be talking about the Alta Via Trek in Italy. And without further ado, I would like to introduce one team member of our partners in Italy that offer this amazing trek. This is Pier Giovanni. Hello, Pier Giovanni.
Hi, everyone.
And he's here today to share his expertise. Obviously, being from Italy himself, knowing the ins and outs of this trek, he's excited to share with us all, more about the route itself, some questions that you've likely been wondering. I know there's quite a lot of anticipation about this topic in particular, and I can always tell when it's going to be a really successful topic because we got a bunch of questions sent in by guests in advance, which we do have today. So I'm going to just start my presentation here, and I will then be able to chat to you guys a little bit about what we are going to be doing. Awesome. So we're in. So yes, as noted, today we're talking about Italy's Alta Via Trek and the agenda that we're going to go through. Obviously, the welcome, which we're kind of in the middle of now. We're going to look over the trip as a whole, so kind of dig into the itinerary. What does the Alta Via look like on a day-to-day basis? And then we'll dig into some of those kind of pressing questions like what do accommodations look like? What is food like? How hard is this trek? When should we go? That type of thing. We'll also talk a little bit about what makes this trek special. Obviously, Italy is home to a wealth of incredible trekking opportunities. And so we'll talk a little bit about what makes the Alta Via specifically a special route. Then we'll dive into the pre-submitted questions that our audience sent through before the presentation today. And then if any of you that are in the audience right now have live questions that you want to ask, just type them into the chat and I'll make sure to check those out and ask Pier Giovanni to help with those following the presentation. So let's get started. I guess a good thing to start would be what is the Alta Via, Pier Giovanni? What is it all about? Obviously, it's a trek, but what is the Alta Via?
Okay, so first thing first, I'd like to apologize because this is my first webinar ever, so I'm a bit nervous, so
That's
forgive me.
okay. That's all right. You're going to do great.
Okay, so what can I say about actually the Alta Via one that hasn't been said, really? Because you're in the heart of the Dolomites, definitely in the most beautiful, most iconic part of the Dolomites. It is one of the most famous, most prestigious, I would say the most famous trek that we've got for sure in the Dolomites, but I would say in the whole of Italy,
Wow.
together with other parts like Chianti or the Cinque Terre. But when it comes to the mountains, I'd say that is definitely the best place. What makes it special compared to other parts of the Dolomites? So I've seen that we've had before. I've seen Nadine shared with me some question about the part that comes after the Alta Via 1, so the Alta Via 2. It's actually quite an easy trek in the sense that you have to be an experienced walker, so it's not a trek for beginners. So you must have a lot of stamina to go with it, but it's actually quite easy. It's not dangerous, and virtually never there are passages that require a lot of mountain experience. I can only remember one passage, but the first day when you climb from the Braies Lake to Rifugio Fodara, to the top, actually. And so definitely it's the walk that everyone would like to do at least once in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And from there you can visit some of the most iconic huts in the Dolomites. Most of those huts have been built in late 19th centuries or during around the years of the First World War. So I'd
Wow.
say between 1910 and 1930, and they have been rebuilt in some cases, and some of them have let's say high level of quality of accommodation. So even if in some accommodation we have to book dormitories, some of them also have rooms, and some of them also have rooms with private bathroom, which is not something that one would be really accustomed
Mm-hmm.
when you're overnight in a hut at 2,000 meters. So
Yeah, that's a really good point and something I hadn't considered.
I'd say that there everything when it everything gets close to perfection, because you don't see something that you might be seeing in other parts of Italy. You don't see litter. You don't see well, sometimes can be overcrowded, but being in such a wonderful landscape, you quickly forget about that. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you, so basically you're never walking alone, but you don't feel like, except if you decide to walk around the Bryas Lake, that is every tourist would do that. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with the Alta
Mm-hmm.
Via one, you would not walk around the lake,
Right.
and you don't have the feeling like you can be in danger if anything happens, because you will always see from June to September, from the beginning of June to the end of September, you will always see someone. So you'll not be feeling alone, and that is quite important, especially if you're not really a great trekker. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that can help you a lot mentally.
Yes. So what I'm hearing is it's an approachable trek, something that as long as you have some experience hiking, you would be more than comfortable taking this on. And what else I'm hearing, PG, is that even if you've trekked elsewhere in Italy, this is a really, really special trail and a really, really special spot that is well worth seeing. So whether you've, trekked in different parks in Italy or different parts of the country, the Alta Via is kind of set apart and standalone in terms of the experience. That's awesome. So we've already actually covered what makes the Alta Via so special, but here's the Lago di Breas that you were just chatting about. What an absolutely stunning lake with some really, really scenic views. So I think we'll now dive into the Altavia One Trek itinerary. Here we have the sort of bird's eye view trekking map. As you'll see, it is an 8-day trek that we offer, and maybe you can just walk us through day by day, kind of how this trek unfolds.
So basically, on first day, even if the walk starts on Bryas Lake, we have decided that we'd rather have the first overnight in Dobbiaco for several reasons. Dobbiaco is easily reachable by bus or by train, and from there are daily buses and several buses that connects Dobbiaco to the Bryce Lake. There is only one hotel at Bryce Lake, so it's always really overcrowded. So the start of the experience would be really spoiled. Dobbiaco is a charm of a village, so it's definitely worth a walk. And I mean, like in 25 minutes by bus, you arrive to Bryce Lake, and then the first day is, I would say, is already probably the most difficult one. Not, as I say, not in terms of, you don't really need any special mountain technique. You just need to have good feet, because you are climbing up from Bryce Lake around almost 1,000 meters up to Rifugio Biella, and then from there, the finally, because the climb never stops until you get there, until you arrive at the top, and from there you just walk the last couple of, I'd say, 2-3 kilometers on flat in a mile descent to the Rifugio Fodara, which is and I'd say the last kilometer leading from Rifugio Sennes to Rifugio Fodara is probably one of the most beautiful landscape that I ever seen in my life when I did it in
Wow.
2017. So if you are lucky enough to get good weather, you see something like meadows, flowers, animals, the whole package.
Wow.
Rifugio Fodara itself looks like a bit like a small mountain village with several huts close to another.
Mhm.
And so there we generally this is a hut that accept booking for one night only in a dormitory, but if they have availability they might also have rooms, and on top of that rooms with private facilities. And if you want to book extra nights, then for from 2 nights on they accept also booking for the rooms. So just in case you wanna, this is also a trip that might be a good idea also to have a rest day somewhere.
Right.
And so this considering this is a really tough first day, could be a good idea. So on the third day, second day of walking, first you go down. Basically, you go down. This is one of the easiest part. First, you go down from Rifugio Fodara on a cement road that the owner of the accommodation used to get to and from the valley, and to a place called Pederu. There you can find a hotel, and from there you start the climb to Rifugio Fanes. Actually, nothing really complicated. You arrive at 2,000 meters. There are three separated huts. We booked the first. We normally try to book the first one that we encounter, which is called Rifugio Montagnoles, and it's a tiny hut. They only have 4 or 5 rooms, but our clients particularly like it because it's family owned, family run. So it's basically this lady with the husband, with the son, and the son's wife. So it's all in the family.
Wow.
And otherwise two bigger huts in at about 300 meters. So this is one of the places where it's let's say it's easier to find availability, even if we are in the heart. Right there, we are in the heart of the national park of Sennes and Fanes. So it's also one of the most requested. This is also the place when you start walking on the fourth day. This is also the place where we include also a packet lunch. But for all the other days, we don't include it in the hut. We include only half board. But clients, of course, can arrange the packet lunch directly with the accommodation. They can pay on the spot, and they can tell the accommodation what they would like to have in the packet lunches, and they pay depending on that. So, fourth day, I'd say definitely one of the highlights of the trip. You start walking, climbing a bit, but not too complicated. At a certain point, you arrive there. You must be careful because you walk on rocks, but so you have to pay attention to your ankles. But nothing really complicated. From there, you arrive at the top, and you have that beautiful view of Rifugio Lagazzo in front of you, and Lagazzoi Lake right below you. So, but it looks so close. It really looks so close. But you start going down, and it takes, I'd say, 50 minutes to 1 hour. And as you arrive there, you say, "Well, in 10 minutes I'll be at Rifugio Lagazzoi," and then you start climb. The Rifugio is always there. It's always there, but but it's basically 1 hour and a half, 2 hours of climb. Nothing really. Not, the gradient is not that much, but I mean it's quite a demanding day. But of course, you arrive there. Rifugio Ragazzoi is the top, the highest point of this trip is 2,752, if I remember correctly. And as you can imagine, that is probably the place where everyone wants to stay. It's a big hut. It I think it can overnight about 100 people, but it's over, starting from December, January. It's especially during July and August. It's and also the first part of September. It's very full. It's very difficult to find place. The good thing is that directly from Rifugio Ragazzoi, there is a cable car. So if Lagazzoi doesn't have place, it's no problem because you have the cable car. Of course, you can walk down, but after walking from Fanes, I wouldn't suggest it. So you take the cable car that leads you in a few minutes to Passo Falzarego, 2,100 meters. And from there, there are two small huts about 1 kilometer from Passo Falzarego, where you can overnight. And there it's much easier to find place in rooms than it is in Rifugio Ragazzoi. So day five, you've got well, there are some really couple of hard stretches going uphill, but there is also the possibility to skip part of the walk because from Rifugio Falzarego, close to Rifugio to Passo Falzarego, you can take a cable car that leads you to Rifugio Scoiattoli, which is along the way to the next stage. And in during this day, you will find several huts in the during the walk. You find Rifugio Averao. You find Rifugio Nuvolao, which is actually not on the route, just a slight detour. But from there, you probably have the most beautiful sights of the whole tour. So our clients like to go there, like to do this detour and make it a bit more demanding, but it's definitely worth considering what you are able to see. And definitely the walk is not really long, but I mean, it's quite can be a bit tiring. Last part is all downhill to Rifugio Fedare, which is one of the huts that actually has all rooms and all with private bathrooms. So a bit of privacy is really appreciated at the fifth day. So then the walk starts to be a bit easier. So on the sixth day, there are some up and down hill. It's a bit long, but actually, if you've been able to overcome the earlier days of walking, you will have no problem going there. You will find anything. This day you will find anything. You will see the peak of the mountains. You will see the meadows with flowers. So that day is going to be really, really, really beautiful. And the Rifugio Staulanza is also another trip, another hut that has both dormitory and rooms with private bathrooms. So we have the possibility to book both kind of accommodation. So last day 7, you go to Rifugio Tissi. Rifugio Tissi is considered the place with the most beautiful view in the world. I uh, I, I couldn't make it to go there because I had to cut the trip short. But the views from there is incredible because you can see also the Alleghe Lake, which is down there. You will pass from Prasto Staulanza, you will pass Rifugio Coldai, you will see the Monte Civetta, which is the mountain of Cortina d'Ampezzo. And Rifugio Tissi has got all rooms. All rooms are small dormitories, but also for 4 or 5 people, so it's not going to be really overcrowded. And last but not least, last day, you will walk all the way down, more than 1,000 meters, going down from Rifugio Tissi to Capanna Trieste. Normally, we could have stayed there, but we wanted to keep this trip for like 7 nights. Therefore, as you arrive there, a taxi transfer will drive you to Agordo, which is the closest train station, or you can also book a transfer back to Cortina d'Ampezzo or to Dobbiaco at the start point of the tour. And I just wanted to specify another thing, luggage transportation. So this is a service that is optional. You can decide just to walk with everything in your backpack, or you can book the luggage transportation, which you can imagine is quite expensive because the distances between the huts are not really that great. But to go from one hut to another, the road is really long. So um, this is a service you can decide to book. And still, if you decide to book that in 2 places, namely Rifugio Ragazzuoi, the third walking days, and Rifugio Tissi, the 6th walking day, uh, the luggage transportation there is not included because simply there is no road that leads that might lead a driver there. So even if you book luggage transportation, you have to keep that into consideration. So for 2 days, you have to bring everything you need for the night. So it's generally a towel, a disposable sleeping bag, even if it's something that you can find in the accommodation, you can purchase them there. And but it's useful to know that for these 2 days, the luggage will not arrive.
And so in those cases, the luggage just continues to the next refugio that's reachable
Exactly.
by car, and you just bring a day pack or an overnight bag with you.
That's correct.
Wonderful. That was a really fantastic overview of the itinerary itself, and it was also really cool to hear more about what the different offerings of the refugios are, because I know sometimes we kind of think, okay, refugio is always shared dormitory, but it's great to know that at some of them there are options for private rooms, ensuite washrooms. Of course, those are the rooms that are likely going to book up first, I would imagine. So you mentioned a little bit earlier, Pier Giovanni, that it's not necessarily a technical hike, but on a scale of 1 to 5, how difficult is the AV1? Would you rate it sort of in the moderate 3
So,
range?
if you're talking about mounted technique that you might need to assess, I would say 2, 3, because
Okay.
it's not really complicated. I'm not really that great walker. There is no via ferrata. There is no like narrow passages that people who might suffer from vertigo might not be able to overcome. So it's
Okay.
actually quite easy, and that could be also the main difference between the Alta Via 1 and Alta Via 2, which is in some passages is really quite complicated. That is why we decided not to offer to our clients because
Yeah.
it would be really too complicated. In terms of experience, in a sense, can you do it? Because there are a lot of clients, especially in the first part. I'd say nothing really. There is not a single day that which is both long and demanding, because
Mhm.
walks in terms of kilometers are not that long. Yes, of course, some walk needs, well, could take like 6 hours or even 7 hours. First day could be one of them, but I would say 3.5 to 4, but nothing, I'd say more 3.5. Nothing that is, if you are, if you already have experienced in walking more days one after the other, I think more or less everyone can do it. Of course, this is not a trip for beginners or intermediate, and not even a trip that could be suitable for small kids.
Okay.
We've had families, but kids were at least like 15 or 16. So I would say it would be way too demanding for younger kids.
That's a really great point because I think actually that was one of the pre-submitted questions. So, yeah, not a hike for the whole family, but perhaps if you have teenagers that are experienced on the trails and are in good
If
physical,
they like
and
walking,
if they like hiking, if you can convince your teenager to spend a week
yeah,
hiking in the Dolomites with you. The views here are just absolutely beautiful. This is one of the huts, the refugios that you had mentioned.
Lagazzuoia.
And yeah, let's just take this in. Like, imagine waking up and having this view in front of you. It's absolutely incredible.
Basically, from Lagazzuoi, if you want, from Lagazzuoi, there is also, I can see in the backdrop, you can see there is a small path walking around those rocky mountains. So you
Hmm.
basically you can just arrive at the with a short walk, like 5 minutes. You can arrive there and be exactly. You can see what's below like 700 meters, and it's stunning.
Wow. Yeah,
So
just
really, really beautiful.
talk about a room with a view. Okay, so our next question is, does the AV1 require scrambling? So for anyone that's not familiar with scrambling, that's, you're not walking on your 2 feet, only you're using your
No,
hands and your feet to kind of
no.
navigate some rocky or challenging terrain.
No, as I said, well, of course, I mean, you're still in the mountain, you still must respect the mountain. You still understand that mountains can always propose some challenges.
Yeah.
Weather changes so fast, so it's always good to check on the weather the day before, and uh, you also you won't for some stages you will not find anything in between, so you have to bring along enough food, enough water, and in terms of scrambling, no, you don't need that, but there are some rocky passages that with the breeze that I'd say they require an extra attention. But
Hmm.
generally speaking, as I said, it's it's an easy trip considering where you are. So you
Right,
don't need
right.
to scramble.
For people with some experience, especially. So, we've talked a bit about the refugios. So, we've answered this question essentially: where do you sleep? And on this particular trek on the Alta Via 1, you're sleeping in refugios along the trail. I guess for some people that are wondering, are there any options to stay in hotels along the trail instead, or is it a refugio-based trip if you're really wanting to do the actual Alta Via 1?
Okay, so basically you're staying in a hotel the first night as
In
you overnight
Dobbiaco.
in Dobbiaco,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
there is no hotel if you want to walk the Alta Via 1.
Yeah.
You can say the Rifugio Staulanza is more of and the Rifugio before, Rifugio Fedare, so fifth and sixth stage, they are they have a certain look of a mountain hotel,
Mhm.
sometimes rather than hut. But still, if you don't have to expect what we let's say a standard hotel, because there isn't any. Yeah, I mean you're too high to have a hotel, and of course nobody is allowed that there is a law that nobody is allowed to build a new to create new buildings there. You cannot
Hmm.
even create newer huts there, because
Wow.
and they did this to preserve the environment.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned earlier that a lot of these huts date back quite a ways. And I think, not only is the Alta Via then a really cool experience in terms of the natural beauty, but it's also a really historical experience thinking how far back some of these refugios go.
Yes, consider that during the walk in some parts, for example, as you walk from Fedare to
Hmm.
Rifugio Staulanza, so the 5 days of walk, basically you will find also a slight detour. Our clients don't take it, but probably it is really close to the walk where you can find historical ruins in Rifugio Lagazzuoi. Basically, there is this is something quite astonishing, because during the First World War, soldiers had built tunnels in the plain rocks, so you
Wow.
can walk. So you can basically walk inside the mountains. I don't know
Wow.
how much effort it took to do this, but especially there, it's still very felt that the First World War. So
Yeah.
you see a lot of reminders to what happened a century
Yeah.
ago. But
Wow.
yes, it's also, of course, this is more like a nature trip. But consider that some of the huts themselves have a lot, a lot of history. Of course,
Hmm.
they have been rebuilt, refurbished in the past decades, but still, some of them, for example, on the Fannes Plateau, some huts have been owned by the same family for like a century. So
Wow.
if there are not too many, if clients are interested in history, and if there's not a lot of people there, you can talk with the owner. They can
Mhm.
tell you a lot of stories about
I
this.
bet. Yeah, that's remarkable. So, calling all history buffs, the Altavia one may be the trail for you. So, let's chat about food. Obviously, while people are exerting themselves, hiking on trails every day, refueling with good food is a part of a great trip. So, what is the food like? I know you mentioned earlier many of the nights are half board on the Altavia. So, for those that don't know what half board is, that typically means you have breakfast included and dinner
Then,
included. And
yes.
maybe you can tell us a bit about more about how that works.
Okay, so basically, you have everything for breakfast, and since all clients go there, you don't see a lot of tourists. You see a lot of walkers there, a
Hmm.
lot of
Hmm.
hikers. So they know that they're gonna need a lot of energy for the day after walk,
Hmm.
and so food is quite abundant. So you wanna you won't feel hungry after dinner, and there are also options if you tell it in advance. There are options for vegetarian people, and sometimes also for vegan people. Of course, still you have to consider that you are at 2,000 meters, so maybe for vegan people there won't be many options, but still we've had a lot of vegetarian clients going there, and it's something that more and more people are have special dietary wishes. So
Hmm.
the huts are, let's say, accustomed to. Basically, you have, as I said, you have breakfast in Dobbiaco, you have then 6 dinners. Drinks are actually not included,
Hmm.
are paid directly to the accommodation. And you have also a packet lunch included the day as you walk from the Fannes Plateau to Lagazzuoi. because over there you won't find. This is one of the most demanding walks, and you won't find anything in between. So
Hmm.
we'd rather include this packet lunch. But
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
makes it easier.
you're in the mountains, so um, it's really hard not to find something really tasty. So,
Yes, I can imagine. And that's the feedback
and
I've heard from our clients on the Alta Via one.
I personally like German food, so it's fine
Yeah,
for me.
me
Because
too.
you still have to consider that until a few decades ago, that area was part of the Austrian Empire.
Yeah,
So it's been only like few decades that it's part of Italy, and there everyone speaks German. Not everyone speaks Italian, even if they
wow.
are let's say they are getting close to the Italian mentality, say, but still, I mean, after centuries of being part of something that
Of
was not
course.
Italy, so they still have the old habits.
Yes, the Germanic influence is still alive and strong.
Yes, exactly.
Question for you, PG. So, on the days where the packed lunch is not included, we chatted a little bit earlier about clients being able to purchase those from the hut that they're staying at overnight, the packed lunch, let the kitchen know what they want and pay for it on the spot. Are there also options to stop at different huts along the way to eat lunch, or should they always purchase a packed lunch in the morning?
Okay, for eggs, well, it's always advisable to have
Yeah,
something to eat at any time because
right.
anything can happen in the mountains. If for any reason a day you're not feeling really well, or you feel like you are extra tired, it's always advisable to not to wait for to arrive to a hut.
Yeah.
Bring always something along from the start of the walk. Then, as you encounter a hut that serves, and sometimes you have this chance and you can always have lunch there, or you can buy something there, but always start with water and food. That
Hmm.
is a must, not only for this walk but for any mountain walk. I would say for
Hmm.
any walk, but
Hmm.
especially when you are in a mountain.
Yeah, that's a really, really good piece of advice for everyone to note for
And
sure.
since you were talking about purchasing the packet lunch and
Hmm.
pay on the spot. Another thing that I sometimes forget to advise, basically all the accommodation right now have like a pass with for credit card payment. But
Ah,
still, you have to consider where you are, and sometimes it doesn't really work. So if you always, it's always advisable to have money in cash,
yeah,
so for any instance, you can pay without any problem.
yeah, yeah. Just in case there's some connection issues, which is likely to
Exactly.
happen in the mountains. That's a really, really good point. What is the best time to hike the Alta Via one?
Okay, I'd say the best time is from mid June to mid September.
Hmm.
It's of course possible for the walk we do. It's also possible to walk a bit later
Yeah,
in September, even if you have to consider that Rifugio Tissi, the last accommodation where you're sleeping, closes quite early compared to the other. But there are also some other accommodation, and it's also possible to start in in the early days of June. Still, it always depends on the weather, because if you start in early June, it's very likely that at the highest quotes you can find
snow.
you can find the snow, and in September there is the other problem that it is very likely to get rain,
Hmm.
and so I'd say we prefer to shorten selling time of this trip from mid-June to mid-September to avoid any trouble.
Would the most popular months, I guess the busiest months on this trail, like many other iconic treks in Europe, would those months be July and August?
Yes, especially July, because
Yeah,
July is the month of holidays for Germans, for
yeah.
Dutch, for Belgian people from Scandinavia. So let's say that July is more complicated than August.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
a very important thing would be to this is one of the trip that clients must book in advance,
Yeah,
because otherwise it gets really complicated to find place, because as you can imagine, there is a huge request,
yeah,
and the number of accommodation is really limited. So
yeah,
that
yes.
that that is the main issue on this trip. Is like when you do the Tour de Mont Blanc, is the
Hmm.
same thing there.
Yes, we know all about that. So that's your nudge to not delay. Don't wait to the last minute to request the Alta Via if you want to make it happen in 2024. Now is the time to reach out. What is the weather like? We talked about this earlier. Weather in the mountains changes all the time, but I imagine part of the reason for having the trip June to September is because the weather is the most conducive to, enjoyable hiking.
Well, you have to consider that since the temperatures are constantly increasing, so
Yes.
it's quite difficult that you might be freezing anywhere. I
Hmm.
remember when I walked at in early September, and I reached Lagazuoi, the highest point. I had only a sweater, and that was I was completely fine.
Okay.
So actually, well, of course you might get lucky, because you should be lucky to get a good weather, because as I said, weather in the mountains is sort of unpredictable.
Hmm.
But even with light rain, it's a thoroughly enjoyable walk, because I mean the landscape you get to see there make up for just about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, the most important thing when it comes to weather is just being equipped with the right clothing and gear so that you're prepared for anything in the mountains, which is key. We chatted about this, so just a quick recap. We can offer luggage transfer on this trek. It's optional, but it's a service that you can choose to add. If you prefer to carry your own pack on your back, then of course the cost would be a bit lower than if opting in for the luggage transfer. What is the best airport to fly into for the AV1?
Okay, that might be an issue, because actually there is no airport really
Too
close
close.
to the
Yeah.
start of the trip. Could
Yeah.
be most of our clients, they can fly to Innsbruck,
Hmm.
and from there they take the train to Lobiaco, because
Yeah.
there is a train that connects Austria and Lobiaco. Or another possibility could be Verona. Of course, I mean the public transportation there is really good, much better than the rest of Italy. But still, sometimes if you see, especially people coming from overseas, they have to fly to Milan or to Venice, so the
Venice.
biggest
Yeah.
airport, and so it takes few hours to go there. So in these cases, it, sometimes instead of after a long flight, instead of taking a long transfer or an expensive transfer, we sometimes suggest you just take an extra night, which is definitely cheaper.
Hmm.
Uh, the place in the place where you arrive, and then the next morning you can take your time to reach Dobbiaco, of
Yeah.
course. But we can of course arrange optional transfer if clients needs it, of course.
Yeah. So that's always something just to request, but I love that idea. Instead of coming off of an international flight and then, jumping into another series of public transport to get to Dobiaco, just spend a night in Innsbruck or spend a night in Venice or Verona before starting your travels the next day. And if you do prefer to kind of bypass the trains, then just request a private transfer and we'll be more than happy to quote that for you.
Same thing. You have to consider that normally for basically all our trips, you have the last walk, you have the last overnight, and then you just leave. In
The
this
next,
case,
yeah.
the last day you still walk. The
Mm-hmm.
walk is not long, so downhill, but still it takes about 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
So you have to take this into consideration as you if you want to leave that very day, you have to take that into consideration. So you might want to add, if you really have the plane there, you might want to add an optional transfer, or you might want to purchase a late flight
Right.
to get to the airport on time.
Yeah, that's something to consider because a lot of trips, like you said, they end on that final morning after breakfast, and then you have a whole day to travel. So just keep in mind that on the last day of this trip, you are hiking, so travel plans kind of need to be arranged with that in mind. So, as I mentioned earlier, actually, before I jump into that, PG, thank you so much. That was an amazing overview of the Alta Via. I think we hit a lot of the key questions that people have been wondering and asking about, and everyone appreciates asking those questions to someone that's actually done the trek themselves. So, thanks so much for your input. We have some questions from some of the audience members who submitted them in advance. So I will just run through these. The first question, and we've actually already answered it, but just to reiterate, is the hike appropriate for children ages 6, 8, and 10? The answer to that
No,
is no.
actually, no. I
Yeah,
wouldn't advise that. Definitely too young.
yeah, definitely too young. Is there a way to do a couple of days of the Alta Via and some leave and the rest continue?
Ye-
Not really sure what that question means.
I
Uh,
think that probably if it's a group of friends or something, maybe some of
oh,
them
like some
have the
other
whole
people leave.
week, and some
Yeah,
yes, of course, it would be well, you can do half the trip. For example, you can get to Lagazzuoi because from there is the cable car goes to Passo Falzargo, and from there is the bus that leads you to Cortina or to the opposite direction to Bolzano.
right.
So that could be a good point if you don't have the whole week to do
Okay.
this tour.
Okay, so the answer to that is yes. If some people in your group want to do the whole trail and some of them want to stop without completing the whole trail, that's possible. Just ask. Is it getting too late right now, as we're in January, to book refugios for later in August?
Well, it's not late to book the whole tour. Sometimes clients sometimes you have to settle maybe for alternative huts, for example,
Yeah,
especially when I said to the fourth stage, Lagazzuoi, very often also in this is something also for later August, valid for later August, that they for many days they are full, so we have to resort to alternative accommodation. But still, the walk is definitely doable. Of course,
hmm,
to do a trip like this, you have to have a bit of flexibility.
yeah,
Would be great if you had flexibility in terms of starting days,
hmm,
but flexibility also in terms of accommodation. As I said, we try to book as many rooms as possible in the huts, but you also have to consider that uh, not not always is possible. So
yeah.
sometimes 2 or 3 nights you have to stay in dormitories, so you
Hmm.
have to be ready for that. So um, you have to bring, like I said, you have to bring along a sleeping bag sheet, or you can
Hmm.
buy in the hut. So you have to avoid, because for me the most important thing is the quality of sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
case you are in dormitory and someone snores, you should be taking something for your
Bring your
ears. This is
earplugs.
no, this is something that uh, I wouldn't consider myself. I wouldn't consider important myself. But if I think about it, if I have to stay in dormitory, this is something, because you, I mean, if you can't, if you're not really accustomed to sleeping in a situation like could be a dormitory, I mean, they're not huge dormitory like 30 people with
Mm-hmm.
mattresses on the floor. They're
Mm-hmm.
nice rooms, but still there are also other people.
Yeah.
And also another very important thing, and I noticed that when I walk the Alta Via 1, is that the times there are different from your everyday life. So
Right.
you know that wake up is about you should wake up at about 6:30 or something, and you especially have to go to sleep at 9:30, 10 at the
Mm-hmm.
latest. So
Mm-hmm.
you also have to consider that, because sometimes I adjusting to new timetables might not be that easy. So people
Right.
should be aware of that.
That's a really good point. Yeah. You don't want to be staying up till midnight or 1 a.m. when you've got a big day of hiking
Well,
ahead of you.
well, if you're staying in a room, you still can do whatever you want. But if
True.
you're staying in dormitory, you have
Respect.
to
Yeah,
expect that all the people go to sleep at a certain time. So.
exactly. That's a good point to think of. Um, is it worth taking the variant of Croda da Lago, or is it more scenic on the main AV1 route?
Actually, we decided. I mean, also that part is very scenic, but we actually not. We prefer not to make it longer, because
Right.
sometimes we decide not to follow exactly the official route, because we took the most scenic place without having to do long detours. So
Hmm.
coming from Passo Giao to pass through the Croda del Lago would be like a bit too long to get to Rifugio Saulanza. So that's why we decided not to take this possibility, because we wanted to give uh, most people to having the possibility to actually walk it and not make it
Yeah.
too tough.
Right. Make it more attainable. Yeah. Um, are Refugio's TC and Carestiato better than Coldai and Vazoler, respectively?
Okay, Rifugio Vazzoler is actually part of Alta Via 2. So,
Oh, okay.
it's something that it's southern
Separate.
from Rifugio TC, and Rifugio Carestiato is also in, let's say, at the beginning of the Alta Via 2.
Okay.
So that's why
Different trail.
we wanted to keep the trip as a week long. So
Mhm.
we had to stop it at Rifugio Tissi.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, is it doable to do a day hike from Coldai to Carestiato, or is that too hard? Is that also on the Alta Via too?
Okay, that part. Uh, okay, so that part, Rifugio Carestiato, is not really on the hike from the Alta Via 1
Yeah,
that we do have. We pass from Coldai, but as I said, Rifugio Carestiato is southern from the end of our trip. So
right,
people
right. Yeah.
should start walking again
Hmm.
from there
Hmm.
doing the Alta Via too.
Makes sense. What is early season hiking like, such as late May or early June? So we don't offer this trip in late May, but what about June?
Well, in terms of availability, of course, it would be the best period because it's still quite
Hmm.
early.
Yeah,
It always depends on the weather, because if sometimes you get a very snowy May, it's really likely that snow hasn't melted down for the beginning of June. So even if walks are not really complicated, even with snow, it makes them more demanding. So clients should be aware of that.
got it.
Let's say most of the huts open at the beginning of June. So I'd say if they really want, if they are really, if they are aware that there might be snow along the walk, it's something that it's doable.
Okay, got it. Um, what booking company do you recommend? Well, this is an easy question. I would recommend booking your Alta Via one with 10 Adventures, of course. You'll have the advantage of booking with myself or one of my colleagues if you're in North America or other parts of the world. You'll work directly with our team, and you also have the advantage of having a trip organized and operated by a local team, Pier Giovanni's team. So you kind of get the best of both worlds in that sense. Obviously, Pier Giovanni and his team are really knowledgeable about the ins and outs of the Alta Via one. So yeah, check out the Alta Via one itinerary online on 10adventures.com and reach out with a booking request, and we'll be more than happy to get you on your way to booking the Alta Via one. Next question: what is the best way to track weather and to stay safe as a solo female hiker on the Alta Via one? So maybe we'll do the first part. Is there a particular weather app that you recommend, PG?
Um, well, actually, it most of the huts have a live webcam, so
Ah,
clients can see the webcam. There are a lot of webcams in the mountains, so you can see what's the weather like. But normally the huts also issue a weather bulletin, so clients can see what is the weather forecast for the following day. This is something that you can do only in general. Let's say also a week in advance. You should check it every day to stay safe. And for the second part of the question, I'd say compared to other walks in the mountains where you feel like you don't see anyone, uh, at almost all times you will see other people walking. So that gives more courage. That helps a lot. And the actually we do provide maps, so we do provide the app, we do provide GPS tracks, and the marking is excellent, so there is no way you can get lost. There are no passages where it is required a sense of a particular sense of orienteering of a mountain guide, so it's actually very easy also from this point of view.
great. Yeah, so it's attainable in terms of, yeah, you've got the self-guided materials to navigate the route successfully, and most people are able to do that. Um, how what is the level of fitness required to hike the AV1? I think we talked about this. You shouldn't be an absolute novice beginner. You should be comfortable and have done previous hiking, but you don't need to be prepared to do any technical hiking. Does that kind of sum it up?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, yeah. What are the options for bathrooms along the trail? So
Okay.
if you've left your hut and you've got to go to the washroom between that hut and the
Ah,
next hut, what do you do?
um, so, okay, well, sometimes you don't, okay, during some of the days you will encounter, so for example, the day you walk from, fifth day you walk from Passo Falzarego to Rifugio Vedare, you encounter two or three huts, you know, Rifugio Scoiattoli, Rifugio Averao, Rifugio Nuvolao, so you can always stop at a bar and ask to go to the bathroom.
Got it.
Uh, when you really can't, if you really can't take it well, you have the general rule is that you have to respect the environment. So not leaving any litter behind. That well, at least no paper, no plastic. So biological. Well, nature
Organic
can
matter
work it
is
out
fine.
itself, but still the rest you have to keep it with you to keep
That's good to know.
the environment as good as it is now.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so important because as you've said, the area has been so well preserved. You mentioned earlier you don't see litter and that type of thing. It looks absolutely pristine. So a big part of that is people respecting the land while they're hiking.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the end of our pre-submitted questions. Thank you so much for that, PG. That was a really, really great chat.
Thanks for
I'm going to
inviting me.
just exit out of this and then see if we have any questions submitted in the chat. All right, so we have Alex in the audience who is asking, is it possible to extend this to, say, a 10 or 12-day hike? So the standard itinerary we're chatting about is 8 days. Can they make it longer?
Okay, let's say not on the Alta Via 1, but in two stages, namely the second stage in Refugio Fodara, the third stage in on the Fanes Plateau. We do have a couple of extra walks. So if clients specific, of course, these walks are not included in the roadbook of the Alta Via 1 because it's not part of the Alta Via 1. But if clients request an extra night, they can also request, can I have the maps, the tracks for the extra walks, and it's no absolutely no problem.
Good to know. Yeah. So, in a sense, we're able to customize to a certain degree at certain portions of the trail. That would just be something to reach out about directly, and then we can connect on that and quote the trip based on the customizations. We have another question from Carol. Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining us. Carol has two questions. She wants to spend a few nights and days before the tour in a location to do some hikes to get fit and ready for the tour. Is there a good town to be based in? I guess a question would be, is Dobiaco a good place to be based to do some day hikes before you actually start the trail?
I mean, the Trentino Alto Adige has got some of the most beautiful walks, and basically everything is so well marked. If
Mm-hmm.
she's looking for something or walks that she
Yeah.
can do, but staying in the same location,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'd say that a possible solution could be we could have the walks, another trip that 10 Adventures provide, and we have walks in Valbadia,
Right.
in a small village called La Valle.
La Valle.
There are a lot of round walks, or since the public transportation there is so good, you can easily take the bus to start a walk there. Of course, those are also demanding walks. So if she, depends if she just wants to start moving or she wants to start doing kilometers, and so be really ready for what she's expecting. So I mean,
Yeah.
there are
I think
several opportunities according to the wishes. So if she wants to walk at Trentino Alto Adige, is definitely the best place where she can find any kind of walk, from easy, even the brightest lake. If you just want to walk, you can walk around the lake. It's like 6 kilometers, but
mhm,
this
that's
is
a good
another
warm up.
possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, so Carol, please do touch base, and we'll be happy to suggest some pre-days for you. Uh, Carol also is wondering, she doesn't speak Italian. Will that be a problem on the Alta Via one?
No, no. Well, you don't find many people coming from outside Italy that speak Italian. So, I mean, base there. Okay, I guess she doesn't speak German. So, but everyone basically, has at least a basic level of English. So
Good to
it's not
know.
going to be
Yeah.
any problem at all.
That's really a comfort to hear for some people that don't speak German and don't speak Italian, like myself. I want Brad has a question. Hey, Brad. Brad says, I want to hike with friends who can't do as much distance as I can. Are there day hikes from the refugios that I could do most days while my friends rest? So maybe Brad means like once they hike the from point A to point B and they get there and his friends want to hang out, are there further day hikes that he could do? Or not day hikes, I guess, extended hikes. So if you arrive at a refugio in the early afternoon, could he keep hiking locally?
Um, Not as I said, we do have those extra walks in Fodara and
Yeah,
Fanes,
yeah,
but extra walks after you've ended. Well, I think a very important thing that I feel people should understand, and then that also the Huts try to make us understand, is that they like to have people that respect the mountain. They don't have to rush. They don't have to run. They just of course they must be tired, they must sweat, but still they need to uh, find the time to enjoy what's around, because
yeah.
I mean it's not really a marathon. If you really
Hmm.
want to walk, if you're just into walking a lot, let's say without stopping, uh, maybe this is not a trip for you, because I
Hmm.
mean this is more like it's tiring already, so you still have to consider this,
Hmm.
but this is a place where you have to enjoy.
Yeah,
You can just you, it's like skipping a stage. It would be even if possible, it would be a pity, because
yeah,
you don't get the true feeling that you can only find there, because that place is one of a kind. It's like going to the Grand Canyon and without even getting to see what's below. So
yeah,
you really have to enjoy the landscape, because when they say that the Dolomites are the best mountains in the world, it's only the truth, and people
yeah.
must have the time to see it. Yes, it's true. It's like
Yeah,
this.
and Pier Giovanni's not biased at all, being Italian. They're definitely the best mountains in the world. Yeah, I think that's so important. It's on an iconic trek like this. It's not just about keeping your head down and powering through to the next destination. It's obviously taking in the landscape and the beauty along the way. And then also when you get there, enjoy a cold beer, enjoy the view, have a nice dinner, talk about your life and experiences with other people that you're meeting in the hut. It's the whole picture that really makes for the experience,
That,
not
that
just the
that that
hiking.
that's one of the typical thing that you get to see as you arrive to
Yeah.
the next stop. People just sit there, enjoy,
And
relax, having a beer,
soak
having a
in it.
drink, and you can start talking with them, because I don't know why, but when people are in the mountains, they are more friendly.
They
Because
are. Yeah.
because normally you would never get to talk to them, but
Yes.
it just feels natural.
And it brings together a bunch of like-minded people, right? They're all there for the same reason, kind of the same mindset. And so, yeah, I completely agree. And that's one of my favorite parts about any hut-based trip that I've done is just that opportunity at the end of the day to connect with people on a real level and chat. And then, yeah, just drink in the beauty around you. It's kind of like your reward for all of the hard work during the day.
That's
Um,
correct.
all right. Dave says, can you remind us, is it possible to spend 2 nights at any of the stops along the way? Which ones are they?
It's well, if they want to stop to do extra walks, it's going to be the second stage, Refugio Fodara, and the third
Hmm.
stage on the Fanes Plateau, where there are three different huts.
For
If
extra
they
walks? Okay.
exactly,
Hmm.
well, of course they can go extra nights everywhere if they feel just like they want to have a rest day.
Yeah.
So, but the extra nights are possible everywhere.
Right. So you would just essentially, let us know where you're looking to spend those extra nights, Dave, and we would say, here's the cost to add a night here, here's the cost to add a night here, and we would work it out for you that way.
For example, Refugio
Yeah.
Staulanza could be, which is the sixth night, could be a good place also because it is on a road, on a mountain road, so you can always take the bus, or you
Right.
can have a transfer and go to a nearby place to get to visit without walking too much in the mountains.
Right. That would be a good location for sure. All right, we've got one more question here to round out this chat. Having says, is it fair to say that the northern huts will be more German influenced, and once in closer to the ends or the south end of the hike, there is more Italian influence in both food and language?
I could tell you could tell you the family names of the owner of the first
And you
house,
would
and
say
you
yes.
would say definitely, definitely I agree about this. 'Cause, yes,
Okay.
okay. So first two huts, Fodara and Fanes, are definitely German based. The other ones sounds more Italian. So
Yeah.
they're a bit more typical than in the, let's say, in the northern part. Even the hotels in Dobbiaco are more like German style,
Right.
but still the quality of the accommodation, even if you overnight in dormitory, is really good.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's just kind of demonstrates what a dynamic trail it is. You're getting to experience two very different cultures on one trail. Fantastic. We're going to wrap it out there. We're 10 minutes over, but I think it was a great opportunity to just get in as many questions as we can. And it was so great to see that our audience was able to submit so many important questions, not only before, but also during the chat. PG, thank you to you. You were an amazing co host today to have and so knowledgeable. And I can really just tell how passionate you are about this trail and really what an amazing experience it was for you to hike it. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Sorry for my English, but I hope
You
I
did
could make
great.
myself clear.
And you are a pro. If this was your first webinar, wow, I'm very impressed. Great job. Everyone, I'm going to type my email into the chat, actually the general inbox email for 10 Adventures. So if you have any further questions, or if you're ready to start chatting about booking the Alta Via 1, reach out and we'll be more than happy to help. And with that, I will say thanks so much for joining the Explore More webinar series with 10 Adventures. It was great to have everyone here with us today, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, PG. Thank you.
Bye.